my name is Kat, and today I want to share with you what I thought were the best books of 2015. So this video is not really about my favorite books that I read in 2015, but rather the books that came out in 2015 that I felt were the best in each of these categories that I have prepared. So it's kind of like an award show, except I am the host and also the judge, jury, and executioner. Because I slay! No, stop. Anyways, let's just begin, shall we? So the first category I have here is Best New Series. And for this one, I've chosen A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I absolutely loved this book. I mean, I've loved all of Victoria Schwab's books, so it's not a surprise, but this one was just so good. Basically, you have these parallel worlds, and we follow a man named Kel, who is one of the few who can travel between them. So he spends his days traveling between different Londons, delivering messages, and sometimes smuggling illegal artifacts. Then we have another character who is a pickpocket, and she happens to steal one of these illegal artifacts, and chaos ensues from there. And not only was this book fantastic on its own, but it was also such a promising start to this series. Like, I cannot wait to revisit this world and these characters and see what new adventures and mishaps they get themselves into. Next category is Best Installment in a Series, and for this one I've chosen The Winner's Crime by Marie Rutkowski. Sometimes the second book in a trilogy feels more like a bridge book and it's not that great on its own, but this one was great on its own. This book, this series, is actually one that surprised me this year because I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. Like, I wasn't eagerly anticipating it, but then I picked up book one on a whim and I flew through it, and then I frantically ordered book two, and as soon as it arrived I started reading it, and I loved it. I loved it. The world is super interesting, and I am quite emotionally attached to the characters, and I also love the politics in this book. Something that I kind of discovered about myself this year is that I really enjoy political plotlines in fantasy novels, and this series has a great one. Next category is Best Series Finale, and for this one, I gotta give it to Winter by Marissa Meyer. So often I find myself at least a little bit disappointed with series finales because they just don't wrap everything up in a satisfying way, but this book was so satisfying and so much happened and it was epic and awesome, and it was just a beautiful conclusion to one of my favorite series of all time. So yeah, I love this book, I love this series, and I'm so happy with how it all concluded. Next category on my list here is Best Contemporary Novel, and for this one I've chosen Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. Now, I didn't read a whole lot of contemporary this year, but this one definitely stood out. This is another book that I kind of just picked up on a whim and I wasn't expecting a whole lot, but then I fell in love with it because it was so cute and funny and charming, and after I finished reading it, I just wanted to hug the book because it was adorable. The next category here is Best Fantasy, and for this one, of course, I'm going with Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. Sarah J. Maas is like the queen of fantasy because her other fantasy release this year, A Court of Thorns and Roses, almost made it into this spot. Like, it was a close call, but ultimately I had to give it to Queen of Shadows because this book was just a masterpiece. Now, I know there are some points of controversy surrounding this book, but for me personally, I loved every minute of it. Like, everything that I wanted to happen, happened. And also some things that I didn't even know I wanted to happen, happened. And I loved them. I loved this book. If you're interested in hearing more details about all the ways I loved this book, then I will link my book talk down below if you want to check that out, and I will also link my book talk for A Court of Thorns and Roses because I also loved that one and talked about it for way too long in a video that you may watch if you're into that sort of thing. Next category is Best Non-YA Book, and for this one I'm going with Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. Holy crap, this book! Oh my god! This book rocked my world and also kind of shattered my world a little bit. This series is just super epic and like I never know what to expect. I never place any bets about what I think is gonna happen because I'm just gonna get blindsided no matter what. I also made book talks for both Golden Sun and the first book, Red Rising, so I'll link those below as well if you want to check them out. My next category is a new one for this year, and that is Best Comic or Graphic Novel. And for this one, I have to give it to Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. Now, I am still kind of new to the whole graphic novel comic scene, but at this point at least, I am finding it very hard to believe that I will find something else that blows me away as much as this series does. From the story, to the art, to the world, to the characters, to the dialogue, just, I love this series so much. Like, it is one of my favorite things that I discovered this year, and I don't just mean in comics or in books. Like, it's one of my favorite things of all things. Now, it's not for children. It has some very mature content, but if you're okay with that sort of thing, I highly, highly, highly recommend you give this series a try because it is just so good. The next category I have here is Best Debut Novel of 2015, and for this one I'm going with An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. This book was so good. Like, I kind of can't believe it was Sabaa Tahir's first book because it's really, really good. This book was just so epic and engaging. Like, it is a really big book, but I flew through it. Like, I couldn't stop reading, I couldn't put it down, and when I reached the end, I was just overcome with a desperate need for the sequel. And at first, the sequel wasn't a sure thing. Like, that had me in a panic a little bit because I needed more, and it wasn't confirmed that more was on its way, but don't worry, now it's confirmed. Book 2 is a-comin' in 2016. The next category here is Prettiest Book, and for this one, it has to go to Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I really wish I had the physical hardcover in my hand here so I could show you guys again just how pretty this book is, but I have done that in previous videos. Like, I've been talking about how beautiful this book is since I first laid eyes on it. And not only is it visually nice to look at and like just a cool looking book, but the story is also fantastic. And I think that's kind of what makes this book even more beautiful, is it's not just pretty on the outside, but the inside is epic and awesome, and I loved it. Like, even if you took away the prettiness of this book, I think it would still be one of my favorites of the year because the story is just so good. It doesn't rely on the pretty, but like, it's real pretty. And finally, my last category here is the big one. It is the best book overall of 2015, and of course, I'm going with Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. I loved this book. I shouldn't say it in past tense because the love is still current and real. I have lost count of how many times I've read this book. Like, I think the only other books I've read more than this one are the Harry Potter books, and I love this one just as much as those. Like, I said that this might be my new favorite book of all time, and it might be, I don't know, I have to reread Harry Potter to like figure out the rankings in my head. I'm just really, really emotionally attached to this book, and it's funny. It's one of the funniest books I've ever read. It has one of the best romances I've ever read. The world is super cool. The characters, I love the characters so much. It's just, this book is everything to me, and I love it. I love it. You gotta pick this book up. Like, I recommend it so much, and I hope you love it. You might not love it as much as I do because I'm a little bit crazy, but like, it's good. It's, even if you don't think it's great and like the best thing ever, I hope you at least still think it's good, because it is. If you don't think it's good, you're wrong. It's good. It's great. It's perfect. I love it. And I did do a full book talk for this book, so I'll link that down below if for some reason you need more convincing, but just read it. It's good. It'll make your life better. It made my life better. I love this book so much. Alright, there you have it. Those are the best books of 2015, according to me. And now I actually have a couple of bonus categories that I kind of want to just shout out real quick. So first is my favorite book that wasn't released in 2015 that I read this year, and that is the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson. I love this series so much. Like, it's one of my favorite series of all time, and it's just, it blew me away. Like, the world building and the characters, I was so very impressed with this series, and I am really, really happy that I have lots of Brandon Sanderson books to read in the coming year. Then I want to briefly mention my most disappointing read of 2015, and that one is Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. Now, this wasn't a bad book. Like, I didn't hate it. I was just expecting so much from it because there was so much hype, and ultimately I was disappointed. Like, I felt it was kind of generic. It was really similar to a lot of other books I'd read, and it didn't blow me away like I wanted it to. And finally, I would like to share with you guys my most anticipated book of 2016. Now, I do have a full video planned where I talk about like 16 releases of 2016 that I am eagerly anticipating, but for now I just want to give you my number one, which was really hard to narrow down. But I think I am going to give it to Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. That's right! Laini Taylor has a new book coming out, and I am beyond excited. You guys know that Laini Taylor is one of my favorite authors of all time. Like, I am just crazy in love with her writing style. What she does with words is beautiful. It's art, and I wanna read anything she writes because her words are magic. I don't know a whole lot about this book specifically other than the fact that it's coming out in fall and it's the first book in a series, and it's Laini Taylor. Laini Taylor is writing a new book and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. But yeah, I will talk more about that and all the other 2016 releases I can't wait to get my hands on in my most anticipated books video coming to a YouTube feed near you very soon. Very soon might be an exaggeration, but it's a coming, probably, I hope. But yeah, that is gonna be it for this video today, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, I hope you have a great night, and I will have another video up soon, so I will see you then. Goodbye! Bye.